Now, today marks the beginning of the third in the series of Extraordinary South Africans. This is a meeting of South Africans who represent the country well, and this is both locally and internationally. The main speaker this year is renowned nutritionist and physician, Professor Tim Noakes. He joins us in studio now, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's lovely to have you. All right, so we talk about Professor Tim Noakes, and your new offering, which is called the Real Meal Revolution, lays out the scientific facts that low-carb, high-fat diet. It's dividing your followers. What's happening there?
No, I think the followers are all there.
They're loving it, so there's no division anymore.
No, there's no division in the followers. It's the non-followers who are the problem.
Okay. Why the dart? What's the problem then?
Because it's such a change. You see, this is the way we ate for 3.5 million years. And then in 1977, the United States Department of Agriculture came along and changed the rules of what we should eat. And there were commercial and political reasons for that. They were not scientifically based. There was absolutely no science showing that a low-fat diet will improve your health at the time they made the decision.
Yeah.
And there have been a series of major studies costing billions of dollars to try to show that the low-fat diet will be healthy in the long term. And they haven't shown it. What we do know is that the obesity diabetes epidemic begins in 1980, not in 1970, not in 1960, in 1980.
Yeah.
And it begins because the guidelines change. And humans, our biology is such that we are designed to burn fat as our major fuel. And we top up with a little bit of carbohydrate. That gives us a bit of explosive energy. But if you increase the carbohydrate content too much in people who are what we call insulin resistant or carbohydrate resistant, you produce diabetes, obesity, dementia, cancer, heart disease in the long term. Now, no one can admit it because it was a US government error, and they're not going to admit it. And unfortunately, industry got on top of it, and they provided foods now which support those guidelines. But those foods are killing us.
Yeah.
And someone has to get out there and say, so much and no further. And the backlash is rising. I mean, I'm just maybe a spokesperson in South Africa, but globally, in every country, on every continent, there are major people saying, we've had enough, it's time to change.
So it's basically, we're talking about carbs that are the enemy here, low-carb living.
Well, that's correct. It's what happened was we removed fat from the diet and we made fat the enemy. But for 3 million years, fat was what kept us healthy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're designed to eat. And you see, I've just read in one of the newspapers this morning, you must eat a diet in moderation. That is nonsense. I eat 70% fat. When I eat a moderate diet, I'm sick. And I'm not the only one. Look around you and see how much ill health is there. South Africa has a choice.
Yeah.
We either build more hospitals and train more doctors to treat conditions which we cannot reverse. If you have diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer, dementia, we can't treat you. Once you get in that's irreversible. We can help you prolong your life a little bit and give you a bit of comfort, but we can't correct the underlying cause. Because we don't understand that the underlying cause is nutritional. And unless we address the nutritional cause, we're simply going to have to produce more doctors and more hospitals and more medical aids, and it's going to bankrupt us, as it is going to bankrupt the United States of America by 2026. There's no more money because diabetes alone will use up all the budget for medicine in the United States of America.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I put out a big laugh because I'm listening to what's happening in the studio, and there's this big round of applause when you said it must be a high-fat diet, and everybody starts clapping. It's like, yes, let's bring out the fat. Because, I mean, all these years it was like low-fat, don't eat that, don't look at that, you can't have that. I mean, that's just, it's evil. But I remember my grands cooking with a lot of fat.
Exactly.
That was a fact. But I mean, listen, I mean, this is perhaps why you are one of these extraordinary South Africans, because you're going out there on a limb, you're making an impact locally and internationally, which is a massive thing. Amongst your other accolades in the field of sport, you're also a recipient of the Mapungubwe Order. I mean, this is wonderful for you. I mean, just taking a look at some of the achievements that you've done. How do you feel as a South African and the impact that you're making, or have you?
Well, I'm a very proud South African.
And your fight is still there, I can see.
Absolutely, and it's not about me. I mean, that's the key.
Yeah.
And I think one has to realize that because your enemies target you as an individual and say, you're mad. I mean, that's what's been said about me in the last 2 years, that I've completely lost it. I was once a good scientist, but I completely lost it. But we've got to focus on the facts, and that's the issue. So I'm very proud of what's been done and achieved, but I'm just one of many people. And I'm thankful to incredible opportunities I had in this country, which I don't believe I would have had a chance in any other country to do what maybe I've done here.
Yeah.
The opportunities are incredible in this country, and people have to realize that and go for it. We just have such opportunity, and I think the key that made me successful was I focused on issues which were important. That's the key. Be relevant. Don't do things that are irrelevant. Do something that's relevant, and fight it with a passion.
What's the focus of your talk this morning? I mean, you're getting up there, you're addressing people, and they want to hear a message from you. What is the message you're giving?
The message is that the dietary guidelines that we have are completely wrong, and they're commercially driven, and they've caused the obesity diabetes epidemic. And we either reverse them, we either take action to say these are wrong, and unfortunately it's the industrial diet that we're eating, and industry drives the food that we are eating. And unless we address industry and start eating foods that are produced locally and which we cook in our own kitchens, that's the key.
Yeah.
You should only eat food that was prepared in your kitchen. Of course that's impossible, but the reality is we've got so far away from that is our problem. So it's go and eat real foods. That's what the focus is.
Yeah, and it is a problem. With our lifestyles, we look for the easy, quick fix, and that unfortunately is the reality. When did you come to this mind fix, this change of mind?
Because 3 years ago.
3 years ago, because you never used to advocate this. I mean, in fact, you did a complete switch and turnaround.
Absolutely.
What made you change?
Well, I realized that I was suffering myself. I had pre-diabetes, which I now have type 2 diabetes, and I didn't realize that at the time. But I changed already when I realized that. So I realized that eating this so-called healthy diet had caused me to develop diabetes. And then I understood what does cause diabetes is high carbohydrate diet in people who can't metabolize carbohydrates. And that if we were to cut the carbohydrate supply to everyone who's at risk, like myself, diabetes would disappear.
Yeah.
It's a completely and utterly preventable disease. And you see, what we've got the wrong idea. We say people are fat because they overeat and so on and so forth, and they're lazy. It's not true. You have a genetic predisposition, and then you kick in. You eat too much carbohydrate for too long. And then the foods are addictive, and we haven't addressed addictive foods because that's what industry did. When they you see, fat makes food palatable. And when they took fat out of the foods, it became impalatable. It becomes like cardboard. So what did they add? Sugar. And they had a double whammy because sugar is addictive.
Yes.
And so now they could addict you to the food, and that's what they've done for the last 30 years.
I mean, I saw this article recently saying that sugar is the new tobacco.
It absolutely is.
It's that addictive.
It is. And it will fight. The sugar industry will fight just as hard as the tobacco industry did.
Sure. It's been so interesting speaking to you because, this is just a touch of what the people that are gathering today. Where's this all taking place?
At Gallagher Estate.
At Gallagher Estate.
Yes.
Thank you so much for popping by. It's an absolute pleasure having you here. Keep up your great work. Professor Tim Noakes talking to us here just ahead of his talk, where he is the guest of honor at the third in the series of Extraordinary South Africans that's taking place today. Right, let's take a